Okay. Make sure I can see everybody. Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. We are on day 2,156 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, and taken downstairs to the basement room, which was the arms room, which is a secure room. You have to be like the platoon leader to get into that room. And he was taken into that room. The platoon leader is the prime suspect, Dallas Wayne Hart, and Richard's life was taken from him. He was, his body was stolen off of Fort Bliss and trafficked to Mexico over international border. Um, for disposal, and evidence also indicates a lot of fraud in the VA disability benefits because Dallas Wayne Hart's father, I mean, there's more evidence in this, but Dallas Wayne Hart's father, um, James Courtney Hart, who's up to no good, who was reported for abusing Social Security numbers and veterans benefits and disability benefits and all of that in the VA for personal gain, was the IDS Pablo, which is the death benefits also. Okay, the death benefits administrator for the Fort Bliss VA's office there. So evidence also indicates organ harvesting, VA fraud, death benefits. This was a terroristic organization. That's what it is because it's connected to the Sinaloa cartel and the CJNG cartel, and of course, all facilitated by the El Paso cartel conglomerate. The alliances. That's all from Operative Alejandra de la Vega Foster, who was well, she's a double agent. She's a double agent. She's the one with the Chihuahuan connections and also, um, the El Paso connections and the resources to be like this queen pin instead of a kingpin, like a queen pin for the Sinaloa cartel, for the El Paso cartel, in alliance with the Sinaloa cartel. Who's a proxy for the Sinaloa cartel? Well, that was Maru Campos. Maru Campos was the proxy for the Sinaloa cartel. So you have Alejandro de la Vega Foster and you have Maru Campos, and no regards for the United States sovereignty or Mexican sovereignty. I mean, really, Maru Campos, she had on her payroll rogue American agents. And I want to make clear that these were rogue American agents. And many of them, uh, the ones that we know of that we have connected, have this common denominator that they're part of a Mormon faction. And of course, Chihuahua has a huge Mormon faction from the community there, the colonies there, that of dual citizen American polygamous sect of the Mormon factions. And of course, that's Connell Wenton, and so the ties to the CIA and the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, um, um, and on, CBP and all that, uh, really heavily tied. And they absolutely are connected to the cartel. And so, just to kind of clarify that because there seems to be a narrative that it's like the American government that wants to come after Mexico or doing a lot of harm. And it is somewhat true, right? Because these are American agents, and they haven't been reined in, because the money was so good. They corrupted many of our officials, and it's really sad. But the point that I want to make is the American system reins them in. The American system, not a man, okay? Not a man. The American system under God reins them in. And that's why they try to destroy the system. But it has been the system that allows us to, in the United States, speak out, ask for redress, really file for redress, and um, demand open records, uh, in a nice way. You request them, but you have the rights to those open records. And they want to shut that all down. But the system is, I can tell you, is worth fighting for. Okay. Through all of this, uh, the odds that were against us, the powers that be that were against us. Um, I think only in the United States could we get as far as we have, and we're going all the way. And we're going all the way. It's just absolutely amazing that we can get accountability when you have these kinds of infiltrators and corrupt people in the institutions. And so that is because of the system, and returning more and more of the system to the American system, not to an infiltrators wannabe, Alejandro de la Vega or Maru Campos, the way they want our system to work. But for the American system of law and order, it's going to be great, because the criminals will be held accountable for what they've done. And you see that with these Antifa members that were up to no good, that were just sentenced, one for what, 50 years or 100 years. And, so there's consequences to, uh, to all the destruction that they were doing. Uh, you know, and of course, um, it would be faster if those that were in office at the time took it seriously to defend the Constitution, the system, right? The system. But we didn't have that. There was a lot of blocking and everything. So now you can tell there's a lot of accountability going on. So against all odds, there's always hope. And so that leads me to this video. And I just think it's really, people, when I place videos like this, they go, well, what does this have to do with Richard? Everything is connected, right? Everything is connected. And hope is connected to Richard's case. Okay. Doing the right thing is connected to Richard's case. So I want to play this video because I just think it's just amazing. And anytime you're getting a lift, because they want to demoralize us, they want to make us without hope. And uh and so having um having this bright moment empowers us to move forward. It's kind of like puts fuel in your tank. And so I do want to play it, so here we go. I don't know if you heard, but Venezuela has suffered through um, two major earthquakes, I'm sure many smaller earthquakes, and it was disastrous. And President Trump has, reached out right away, um, and offered our help. They accepted our help, and now we have some rescues going on, and this is a really amazing rescue. Oh, let's see if I can play it here. So good to hear that baby cry because that means that baby's alive. This is how precious life is. Life is so it makes me cry. Get some food in that baby. That pictures and let's pray that it has some value. What a blessing. Okay. Wasn't that amazing? I just think that that was amazing. Because look at all of those rescuers. It just they were probably just in awe, just in awe with this life that they saved. They will never forget it. They will never forget it. And that is why we're so grateful for all of you to help us get accountability for Richard. One, to save his namesake, right? I know we can't bring him back from what they did to him, but they tried to smear him and they absolutely attacked our family, right? Just attacked our family for years now. And, it hasn't stopped, y'all. It hasn't stopped. So we are so grateful for all of your support. Um, that brought on that in the line of duty. It's so important because it really absolutely confirms that he was killed for what he was reporting, right? And it's a confirmation. And on top of that, then President Trump's letters that absolutely confirm it. And those letters are because of all of your tips, all of your evidence, all of your support that we have gathered over these years. Um, and, it just, it has that saving effect, right? When you get justice, because we're saving justice. And I think we're saving our countries. I'm getting very emotional watching that baby. Oh my gosh. So I just had to play it. I just had to play it because uh, it speaks more than my words. It speaks more than my words can express. And of course, um, yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Uh, it's hard to after that. It's hard to you want to go out and celebrate, right? You want to go out and pop a bottle of champagne and say Prost, right? And, um, to these rescuers and yes, and pray for the rest of the victims of these earthquakes. Um, yeah. Okay, so that's why, and I have a part two for the abuse of women, the worst type of abuse of women when you do it in a gang fashion, right, is not okay. You are the complete opposite of these rescuers. You are like killers, right? You do harm. And for that kind of accusation to be out there and for the um, cartel infiltrators in El Paso to just protect somebody that has those kind of accusations. um, and we know that he's up to no good. And I'm talking about David Scott Frost. How do I know he's up to no good? Well, he botched the Walmart mass shooting. And we know that the Walmart mass shooting, he never mentioned Maiella, did he? He never mentioned Maiella, right? That tells you what kind of person he is because he absolutely knows Maiella because he worked with Maiella in the FBI field office right there. And of course, he was working as the lead investigator for the Walmart mass shooting, which is connected to our son's uh, taking of his life because Richard was reporting on the Walmart mass shooting being connected to his unit. Okay, the orchestration of it. That is the big one, y'all. That is the big one because they can cover up so much trafficking. Okay. But when it comes to election tampering, when it comes to election tampering against the goat, the goat. Okay. This is not against some weakling. This is against President Trump. President Trump never gives up. He never forgets. He never gives up. And he's a patriot. And so he knew that what they did against him was against the country, that it was against the military because he's commander in chief, was against justice because he's the chief judicial officer of the land. Okay. So it was against the country, it was against our military, it was against him personally, it was against the people because it was tampering with the election. And why do I say that? Because the DA's office, I know because of the investigation that we have conducted, that the people in the DA's office, including Bill Hicks, okay, 'cause the liar, he's such a liar, are are anti-Trumpers, okay? They were pro Beto O'Rourke. They wanted Beto O'Rourke to go in because they were tied to the cartel. And the cartel wants an open border. And Beto O'Rourke wants an open border because he's tied to the cartel. So they uh, absolutely wanted to do everything they could to stop President Trump, who never gives up, who works and works and works. Whether, you voted for him or not, you have to concede that he is a worker. He never gives up. And they knew that. And he made the election too big to rig in 2024. In 2020, they orchestrated the Walmart mass shooting. And we know that that came out of the DA's office, okay? Because Michael Maiella was in the DA's office. He was employed in the DA's office. The shooter's brother-in-law was in. Look, even if there's multiple shooters, Patrick Crucius um, confessed to being a shooter. So absolutely. He was the shooter's brother-in-law was in the DA's office with Bill Hicks, with John Briggs. We know because of all of our investigation that they were up to no good. They did not like the investigation that was going on about the distribution of the Walmart mass shooting victims funds because that was um, fraudulently distributed over $12 million. But also, they didn't want anything out about the Walmart mass shooting. They were containing it. They were containing it to be a false narrative. that would harm President Trump, that would smear President Trump, that would tamper with the 2020 election, sabotage the 2020 reelection of President Trump. And Michael G. Maiella was employed by them. Okay. And we know that John Briggs and Bill Hicks were absolutely up to no good. And how do I know that? Because of all the evidence that we have collected, one being just an example, okay, besides that Bill Hicks is such a fraud at the bottom of the barrel. I've made, I mean, ter- look, Greg Abbott chose him during a recess because he is such the bottom of the barrel. But he was the attorney for Purchase Funeral Homes. Okay. The very funeral homes that handled the victims' bodies of the Walmart mass shooting. The fact that Greg Abbott would even choose a conflict of interest that big shows you what an orchestration and cover up this was, okay? To control and contain the narrative. So Bill Hicks absolutely, when he botched his installation for the appointment, we absolutely filed a complaint about him because he wasn't a real DA. Okay. And that means that where do we go to for a redress if the DA is not legally installed? Right? Where do you go? He is the prosecutor. And they covered for him. They did not um, fire him and appoint someone else, right? Which they should have done because he absolutely did not install properly as the DA. And he brought back uh, John Briggs because John Briggs had been fired. He brought in also Bill Hicks for his chief of staff, brought in Diaz, right? Who is cartel, absolutely cartel. Willie Moya, Arturo Alba, cartel. So for his chief of staff in the DA's office, that he appointed cartel, okay, and brought back John Briggs because he was already messing with the Walmart mass shooting. We know that through Loretta Lynn Hewitt, who uh, uh, on the witness stand told everybody, testified that her notebooks were taken away from her, that the notebooks that she was using for the investigation, for the prosecution of the Walmart mass shooting for Patrick Crucius were taken away, removed from her, taken from her. And she remembered some things in there and she shared them, like that Patrick Crucius was hitting his head on the pavement when he was 3 years old, um, that the neighbors were like, no way, he couldn't even tie his shoes at 18. He failed kindergarten, and many more things she testified that were in those notebooks that were taken away from her. So the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office employed the brother-in-law of the shooter, employed who? Michael Maiella, the Michael Maiella connection, the Maiella connection. And they were all absolutely up to no good. On top of that, you have the accusations against the soldier that is also the lead FBI agent on the Walmart mass shooting, which is like, what? That could only happen if this is like a very connected individual that is from like a spy, like a deep state family, a deep state training, right? Because how are you in the FBI simultaneously as an NCO in 1AD headquarters? So this is not a tinfoil hat. This is manipulation of our system. This is obstruction of justice. This is election tampering. This is the CIA stuff, right? It's the CIA stuff that um, that we know is happening because Maru Campos has them on her payroll, right? And they're walking around the Fiscalia with their fully automatic M4 rifles and being killed in ambushes in Chihuahua. And then they try to take the bodies and destroy the bodies and destroy the evidence and switch out the weapon because they don't want you to know what weapon that CIA agent had. And this is, of course, Scott. Um, David Scott Frost, who his wife is alleging, the worst type of crimes against women in gang action. It's kind of like those Pakistani gangs in England, right? What they do to women. And that's what he's being accused of. That's not okay. And it's not okay that you're a double agent. And it's not okay that you're botching the Walmart mass shooting because it was bloody and you had people's lives that were torn apart by that. And, it's like an earthquake, but he's creating it. And he doesn't want to save the babies. No, because you had 500,000 children then because of all of that, the election tampering, you had over 500,000 children trafficked through that border into Fort Bliss, where he was a NCO. And the accusations against him are so bad, so bad. Um, and you have the same agencies, the CID and the command, Sean Bernabe command, the Marlon Soto and Tavita Nusa that are doing the investigation. And they didn't investigate. They protected this criminal. And he's a criminal, whether his wife's accusations are true or not. We know that there's hard evidence of all the other crimes that he has committed that they could have spotted when they were doing this investigation for his divorce case. Very easy. Because I know that because that's how we find so much information. We're searching for one thing and all of a sudden something else is revealed. Sorry. That we weren't even looking. We weren't even looking for uh, Michael Maiella in the DA's office. But I'm looking at Delirious Montanez. She's up to no good, y'all. And I'm looking at her statements and her friend's statements, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh my gosh, there is there's a family that's the family of Patrick Crucius right there in El Paso. The whole narrative is a lie. And then when you see all the other evidence, you go and to all the other tentacles of this big octopus, you absolutely piece it together that it was a political hit, a political orchestration to be against President Trump and to somehow, they wanted to try to somehow lift Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke did get over $4 million afterwards, but he was such a bad candidate, such a bad candidate that thank God he didn't go he didn't win the primaries. So, but they wanted to install him in the White House, you know. Um, so this is, very, very clear. And how is it connected to Richard? Because the individuals also involved in this orchestration of the Walmart mass shooting and the cover up of it were individuals connected to his unit. Okay? Individuals connected to his unit. So because there was a cartel infiltration and compromised domestic enemies, we had foreign and domestic enemies that had infiltrated into our military. And so they had you're talking about a lot of money that can get spread around to a lot of people. And it was in Richard's unit. And, just like Glennon Oakley Jr., he was found not alive in April of 2020 in his barracks. He's the one that reported on the group with the M4s. So that's important because M4s are fully automatic. They are our military's weapon. Okay. You cannot buy them. You cannot, they're illegal for you to have because they're fully automatic. So, yeah, and they're very illegal in Mexico, and yet they were carrying them around. And now we know that you have a soldier, a senior NCO under Sean Bernabe in 1AD headquarters battery, division artillery, right? Diverty, that he was not only in the lead FBI agent for the Walmart mass shooting, but he was also in the Fiscalia. Um, so, was he on the secret payroll, right? And here he gets away with just a brush when you have major, major accusations against him. He should have been under full investigation, right? And I can tell you by the record that the CPS, the Family Advocacy, the CID, for them to all have like the little short little nothing to see here comment, um, there's a lot to see. So you know that they were covering for him and did not do an accurate investigation into the worst type of crimes against women in gang fashion. So that is not okay. Um, yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming on. Thank you, Laura, I see, and your prayers and your love, and Anicia for your prayers and your love. And yes, fix it, Father God. Absolutely. Thank you, Athens. Um, thank you for your prayers, Tracy. Thank you so much, Danielle. Thank you so much. Um, it's just very, I'll even display this uh, really disturbing to see Michael Maiella with Bill Hicks, who is attorney for Purchase Funeral Homes, in the DA's office with the likes of John Briggs, who's so bad that they fired him. Can you imagine? They fired him, but Bill Hicks brought him back. Okay. So I think that is important. Yes, the other, and I meant to try to get AI to translate this into English. You might want to do that. Um, but what it's saying is that this guy here is the financial front man for Cesar Duarte. Cesar Duarte is in a prison in Mexico City right now. And the main thing, I mean, he has so many crimes against him, Cesar Duarte does. But the main thing that he has is the embezzlement. Okay, the embezzlement. And if he embezzled a lot of money, lots of money, millions and millions, millions and millions, and he was welcomed by Alejandro de la Vega Foster. And of course, he was connected to Jeffrey Epstein, because of his ranch right there by Zorro Ranch. Um, and when you embezzle a lot of money, you want to money launder, and the king of all money laundering is Jeffrey Epstein. That was his, specialty, was money laundering. So this is the financial guy with Cesar Duarte, for Cesar Duarte, that just huge money laundering, right, and embezzlement and everything, and he lost a case. Um, for millions and millions and millions, hundreds of millions. And he has to pay that back. He's not a happy camper, so he goes into this public meeting and he fires off his weapon. He gets arrested. But what is really big is, why did it go that far? Someone could have been killed. Why did it go that far? Because Maru Campos, remember, she had open warrant out for her arrest. And these criminals, she's a criminal protecting criminals. Okay. She's a criminal protecting criminals. And her whole record absolutely screams that. Absolutely screams that. And she's the El Chapo Sinaloa fentanyl proxy governor of Chihuahua. And of course, her mother was the co-conspirators, the health director there, and absolutely connected to the Plenitude crematorium operation, which she allowed to happen without permits, without inspections, running, the most disgusting, vile, vulgar, filthy, flesh peddling, over 400 bodies piled up every which way, not even nicely every which way, just thrown in there with uh, signs of torture, and in uniform, and not, and um, no inspections, no potable water, no air condition, no electricity. I mean, it was just really, really bad, y'all, really bad there. So, yeah, that was Mario Campos's mother. She's a sick human being. Very, is she a human being? She's a sick monster. She is a sick, sick monster. And Mario Campos is the daughter that's allowing it all to happen, in alliance with El Paso cartel and the operative Alejandro de la Vega Foster. Very sick individual. These are pan and pre. What do I mean by that? Well, Mexico has political parties, and Maru Campos is pan, and Alejandra de la Vega Foster, her father, for years and years was pre. She's pre and pan. We come together to create absolute hell, right? Hell on the El Paso side, and then on the Chihuahua, Juarez side. Um, so that is, what this is all about, is this protection racket for such a huge criminal like this, right? And all the money. Yeah, and this here says 2027 jail for Maria Campos Galvan. Yeah. Um, absolutely. And of course, here's because she was allowing, I put up El Mayo's picture there, because to remind me to say that, remember, she admitted on TV that she allowed CIA agents, DEA agents, ATF agents, FBI agents that were on her payroll, operating with their own office space in the Fiscalia with Carlos Manuel Salas, to extradite individuals without federal authority. Okay. That is really important because that is exactly what we've been reporting on with El Mayo, who organized this extradition without federal authority. No extradition paperwork. This was like a kidnapping, okay? And that is outside the rule of law. And like I said the very beginning, it's a system that helps us. So we have to protect the system. We need to be the protectors of the system. And that means that we have to have our uh, due diligence to get these infiltrators and those that have no loyalty to the country, be it Mexico or the United States, to the system, that they just want to obstruct justice, that they want to break our system apart. We need to absolutely keep an eye open for these people because I don't want to give up my freedoms, right? I don't want to give up what our system has given us. And let me tell you, we're on the verge of a golden age with this cheap fuel that's coming in, and $1 trillion of investment that President Trump has brought in the first year alone of his administration. That is so, so huge. There's so much good news, and the media is not reporting it. You have to have your due diligence, right? And so this is, uh, you know, just a reminder that you can have illegal extraditions. You cannot have extraditions where you just, can go after your political foes and go and arrest them and extradite them to a different country or whatever because you don't like them or whatever. You have to follow the law. And so we have to really guard the law. Um, Otherwise, these people are monsters, and they won't go after the baby in the rubble, okay? They won't go after the baby in the rubble because they're heartless. They're absolutely heartless. And they're all about the money. And you can see that by their fruit. So that's important. And of course, these two know each other very well. They're really, really bad. Um, yes, and I did put together a little bit of a review of Richard's case so that people could share it. The murder and cross-border trafficking of the Fort Bliss whistleblower soldier Richard Halliday constitutes a grave armed attack on the United States. It's an act of war. You could call it a grave armed attack. It is an act of war, and if that is there to for people to share with the description, just so you can share the gist of Richard's case. The other thing that is happening, of course, is the petition. If you have not signed the petition, please sign the petition. What is a petition about? It is about honoring Richard with a medal, or maybe more than one medal, maybe a lot of medals, maybe the Medal of Honor, maybe it's a Purple Heart, maybe it's a Soldier's Medal. But we want to honor him with a medal. And so, what does this mean? Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah. So you can sign the petition. It's right here. I pinned it to the top. And if you can share that and rally people to sign it, we need 100,000 signatures. And what that will do is um, um, trigger a full review of Richard's file. Okay, a full review of Richard's file. We think this is very, very important because the media is still putting out, and even with our cease and desist, they are not correcting their story, and it's it's terrible. It's false. It's a false, it's a fake, it's a lie. And so and we are, doing other things to change that, but and this is one of them. And this is one of them. The signing of the petition for honoring Richard with a medal that would trigger a full review of his file. So if you want to know everything about Richard, sign this petition because it will trigger a full review of his record. And we think that's really, really important to set the record straight. And we think the time is right for that. I think so. Absolutely. So I wanted to talk to you about that one. And I think that's just about it. Yes, thank you so much. I never like to say that's just about it because it just goes on and on and on. And I want people to know how comprehensive we are, how much we have investigated, how much we have shared with the public, and that Richard's case is so big. It's just, you can't even conceive how big it is. Um, but it's because of the election tampering, okay? The election tampering by the Walmart mass shooting, and Richard called that out. So that's, especially if you really don't like President Trump, you can definitely understand the hatred that would cause some major problems. So thank you so much, everyone. God bless you. We're really moving forward to uh, accountability and getting our son's remains back. That's a big deal, the repatriation of our son's remains. And so we appreciate your support and your signature on the petition. Thank you so much. And sharing, 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 sharing. Thank you